Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of O365Eh. On tonight's episode, we're going to be talking with fellow Canadian MVP, Serge Tremblay. Welcome, Serge.
Hello.
And Serge does a lot of work these days with Microsoft Loop. So here to talk about Loop and to do a demo is Serge Tremblay. So Serge, why don't you give a little introduction to yourself and Microsoft Loop?
Yeah, well, I've been working with the Microsoft collaboration tools for over 20 years. I used to be an Exchange guy, so I used to do Exchange 5.0, Exchange 5.5, and then I fell into the SharePoint boat in 2001, which was the first year of SharePoint. And I've been doing SharePoint ever since. And with Microsoft 365, I've been specializing into Microsoft Teams and all the communication and collaboration tools. And ever since Loop came out, it's a new way of doing collaboration. So I've been playing with it a lot, and I'm looking forward to see new stuff coming out at early next year that we're going to talk about stuff that we're going to show stuff that is already in, and we're going to discuss stuff that will be coming out in the next early next year, hopefully.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
So maybe with that, let's maybe kind of break down what is Microsoft Loop. I know that there's some announcements at Ignite that recently happened, and there's a Loop app, there's Loop workspaces, pages, components. How does that all fit together?
Yeah, at the moment, there's only the Loop components that are available. So a Loop component is like a tool, something, a widget that you can put inside of a Teams private conversation. Only on one-on-one private conversation, you can add that component in the private conversation. And once you add that component in the conversation, you'll be able to do co-edition. So if you like co-edition into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, now you will be able to co-edit, have two people working at the same time on a task list, on a table, onto a sort of documentation that you can build, and all within the Teams conversation. And it's also available into the Outlook web. So you will be able to copy that component that you've been working on in a conversation, copy this in Outlook web and send it by email to a colleague. And then your colleague will be able to edit that Loop component in Outlook. You'll see the changes that he is making inside of your Teams conversation, which is pretty cool. So you have one component that is shareable, and that you could have multiple people working on that same shareable component. So when you do a task list, you work on a project or like a small project, or eventually when you have a meeting, into the meeting, you'll be able to add that task list that is shareable, and you will have multiple people working together. You'll be able to see this. At the moment, it's available in chat and in Outlook web, but eventually it's going to come into the Outlook desktop application. It's going to come into Word. It's going to come into Whiteboard. You're going to have it into, hopefully, like integration with Dynamics 365. So you will be able to take an opportunity in Dynamics 365, take the component and paste this into a chat. And once people edit the component anywhere for the opportunity in Dynamics 365, you're going to see the changes everywhere. So one component that you can share and use and edit from multiple applications, which is pretty cool for collaboration, I think.
And then how's that differ? I guess how's the components can differ from like the Loop app that they were showing kind of at Ignite?
The Loop app is something that is coming up. Like you can register for the preview. It's not out yet. And it's like an application like Word, Excel, PowerPoint. It's an app that you're going to have. And inside of that app, you'll be able to create pages. And on those pages, you'll be able to add Loop components, but you'll also be able to add text. You'll be able to add links to documents. So it's it's sort of a OneNote on steroids, I would say. So in OneNote, you would have like section, and in your sections, you would have pages. So into the Loop app, you will have pages where you'll be able to add components and add your documentation and add link to multiple Loop components inside of the same page. So you'll be able to view multiple Loop component in the same page. You can have multiple pages. You will have multiple workspaces. So you will use the app. In the app, you're going to create a workspace. In the workspace, you're going to create pages. In the pages, you're going to add the Loop components, and you'll be able to share and co-edit on these components from the Loop app. But then one person could be in a Loop app, another person could be in Outlook, another person could be in Word, another person could be in Teams, and they all edit the same component, the same task list, or the same table content that you're editing.
So unfortunately, we can't demo the Loop app yet because it's going in preview, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But maybe, Serge, if you want to maybe demo the Loop components to see kind of these building blocks that make up this app coming.
Right. So I will go into my team app. In my team app here, I've got a friend called Billy Joel. So I'm going to have a chat with Billy Joel and say, hi, Billy, how are you? And then here are a few tasks I want you. And from here, I'm going to click on the bottom here from the message. There's the Loop icon that you can click. And from the Loop icon, start with an empty message. So let's start here, and let's start adding that Loop component here. And I can add a bulleted list, discussion topics, numbered list, paragraph tables, or task list. So let's say I want to add a task list. I just click here. It's going to create the component. And then I'm going to have here task for the Rugby World Cup 2023. So I can ask here a task called, I don't know, book, hotel. I can assign this. Who do I want to assign this? So I can do the @ command. That's the people that are part of conversation. So I will assign this to Billy Joel. I've got a calendar component that I can select. I can set book flight and assign this to me. And this is the component, but you can do more. Once the component is added, if you use the slash, you can add text here and add more items and add, let's say, an image. And then you will be able to pick up an image from, if I say, I have World Cup, I've got rugby here, maybe. So let's pick any image for now. Let's pick that rugby ball that I had. I can add the rugby ball on top and add an image here. I can resize the image as I want. I can start typing text if I want. I can add more. Here is some text.
Is this all happening in real time, Serge, for the other person?
At the moment now, I have not sent it. So once I will send, you will see that it's syncing.
Okay.
And once it will sync, I've got all the information here, and I will go on my other screen. And on my other screen, I will sign in as Billy Joel. And as Billy Joel, I will be able to add and edit content from the component and work with this user and do changes. And we can see the changes in real time, which is pretty cool, I think. So you can edit, you can co-edit, and you can also send the content. So let's say I add a new task. So I'm just turning around and going to the other computer now, and I'm adding a new task here. Added, as I'll say, buy tickets, and I'm gonna add, and you can see here that who's writing, it's Billy Joel. So Billy Joel is writing and is assigning me the task, and I'm on the other computer with Billy Joel writing content into, and I've changed here, and you can see that Billy Joel is co-editing with me and writing at the same time as me inside of the component, which is pretty cool also. So, and it's real live change, so I can see that Billy Joel is working into the file and is working with me. So, and what I can do too is I can copy this link here, or if I go, since with Billy Joel I'm in English, I'm going to connect to Outlook with Billy Joel here. Just a second. So I will transfer here with Billy Joel, and I will get my loop component that I can copy, the link, and I'm going to start a new email that I want to send to, I'll send to Nick, let's say Nicolas, or I'll send to back to me, to Serge Tremblay, loop, and I'm going to copy and paste the loop component here. And by pasting the loop component, you see directly in Outlook, I've got the component here available that I can send through email. And now we can work into that email here, work onto that same task list. And if I had a task here added from Outlook, I'm still in Outlook here. So I've added by Outlook. If I go back to my team, it should sync out, and you see here added. I made a mistake. I can fix it here. So it's the same task list that we are sharing with multiple people. So that's a different way, complete different way of doing collaboration. And you can create your own by using the slash again. So I can say I want to add a table. When I'm adding a table here, I can click here and add inside of my table. I can add different content, so I can type, but I can use the @ sign to assign to some people. I can insert here columns and stuff like that. So you could have different type of information that you could add directly into your table and create your own table by typing your information and deciding what type of information is added. And at the same time, it's all shared and co-editing. So we could add person. So I can add here, let's say I will add description. I will add, remove this, assigned to. I will add date. And now I can type in the slash here where I could just put comments or add text for the description. Let's say I want to add text for the description. I can right click here, not right click, but slash, sorry. I can slash and say, I want to add a person here, or just use the @ I can slash and say, I want to add a date here. And you got different type of components you can add, which is also pretty cool. So this what can be done into the Loop app. And if I go back to my email, if I go in a calendar and open up a new calendar event or a new event in my calendar, I've got the Loop component here in the Outlook web that I can add a Loop component inside of my calendar. And by adding the Loop component inside of my calendar, I can do the task list and stuff like that to do my meeting details and so on. So you have the Loop component that can be added only in the Outlook web at the moment. So if you open in the Outlook client, what you're going to see is just an hyperlink that you'll be able to click on. And when you click on the hyperlink, it's going to open a web page with your Loop component. So from the Outlook desktop application, you will not be able to edit the component, but you'll be able to click on a link and it's going to open a web page to show you that component.
And Serge, we were talking before the call. We expect these components to be available in some of the Office desktop apps probably late this year, right? Just approximately.
Yeah, by the end of the year, Microsoft announced that the preview for adding the loop component inside of Word and inside of the whiteboard, I think is coming up. It's coming up this year, by the end of the year.
Got it. This is really real-time collaboration right across the whole Microsoft Office suite, isn't it?
So yeah, it's one component everywhere that you can edit eventually.
Right.
And one of the cool things that Microsoft has announced too is I've got some government people that are working that I'm working with, and compliance is very important and security is very important. So they've already announced at the Ignite, they've announced that the sensitivity label will be able to be added to a loop component. Because in the background, the loop component is just a file. It's actually a file that is stored in the OneDrive of the person that created the component. So if I would go and show you my OneDrive, in my OneDrive, I would have my a loop component inside of my Microsoft shared file folder. So it's a fluid extension. So if you do a search for a fluid extension, you'll be able to find it. So, and if I come here and go to my desktop and go to, even if I go to the Office app here, to the Office homepage, from the Office homepage, you see I've added here a shortcut for loop components where I will find all my loop components. So by default, that shortcut is not there. So all you need to do from the Office 365 homepage, you could just click on a new filter, say, I want to filter by loop component, and it's going to show me all my loop components. Security on the loop components is like the security on a link inside, because it's a document, it's a file inside of your OneDrive. So you can manage the security on the component. You also have, since it's a file, if I go to my OneDrive, I go to my Microsoft Teams chat file, I've got my loop component here. I've got access to, I'm in French now, but I get access to version history. It's a component, it's like a Word document. It's like an Office document inside of your files. So you got version history available, you got the shareable link that is available, and it's all working the same way as a file, actually.
So Serge, because it creates like a different fluid file, and we talked about sensitivity labels. Do you know if we're also going to be able to apply retention labels or DLP to these type of components, or is that something that maybe?
I think the first phase is the sensitivity label, but I'm pretty sure since we can have DLP and sensitivity label, we'll be able to add like the retention labels eventually. I do hope so. Like I didn't see the mention on it, but there's the mention for the DLP sensitivity label.
Because I mean, I work with a lot of government as well, and one of the concerns there is the ability to not have a retention policy on there, and the fact that you could have an email that's like, however old, and then once it, I guess maybe. The loop component updates, does it update the record of the actual email itself so that email doesn't actually get deleted as well, right? Because it does it refresh or something like that. So that's the one thing that I think that a lot of organizations, especially the ones that I work with, are looking for.
Yeah. You see with what they've announced for the sensitivity label is you'll be able to pick what label you want to assign. And then if you try to add type of content that is not allowed with your DLP, you'll get the sign that you're not allowed to use this into the label. So my guess is eventually the retention labels will be there too. I haven't tried, so maybe for the next time that I do the session, I will try to see if we can apply a label onto this, but a retention label. But I don't think I didn't see any announcement on that part. How do you guys like this?
Sweet.
Looks great. Yeah.
I think Serge, we should have created a request list for songs for our listeners. Serge is quite the piano player, so I'm not surprised you chose Billy Joel as a demo.
Yeah, he's my demo man.
Hey, one quick
maybe
question.
maybe next time we'll do a presentation in front of my piano.
Yes.
We've heard you play piano, Serge. Very talented.
Thank you.
Just a quick question about the differences in the Loop components available in the web app versus the developer app. Can you just talk about that?
I didn't do much in the developer part. Like I know that Microsoft has announced that you'll be able to build adaptive cards that you'll be able to put in the Loop components inside of the adaptive cards. So by doing this, then you just add more collaboration to the adaptive cards that you will have into your team.
That's very cool. And I guess it's possible to develop your own Loop components, like if you want to do something custom.
I know that, like I said, I'm not a developer, so I didn't put too much time into looking at what's available for developers now. But I know that it's coming up that you'll be able to do. Microsoft is really on all their application. Actually, they make stuff available to be able to develop your own. So I don't see why not. Since you can add it to an adaptive card, you should be able to create your own eventually. Yeah. But that's my thinking. So I think it should be available eventually.
Makes sense. Okay.
So Serge, what about like it wouldn't be a complete conversation if we didn't get into licensing. So is there any special licensing required for this, or is it just going to be available with all the eSuite? Anybody that can.
It's all available with the suite as it is now. It's available in Teams already. It's available in Outlook. There's one new components that have been added to Outlook. It's funny, like the first implementation of Loop components was inside of Teams, and then it got into Outlook Web. But in Outlook Web, we have two new components that are available in Outlook Web that are not available yet into Teams. So if you give me 2 seconds to just restart my Outlook and start a new email, I will share my screen. So I forgot to talk about these two, but they were announced also during the Ignite. So if I create a new email and send an email to Serge here, add the subject, and from the email, I can add the Loop component from Outlook Web again. Eventually, it will come to the desktop, but here I've got Q&A. So the Q&A, you can build an FAQ that you could create a question, how to add a component, and then you could add a new questions, how to view version history on the component. When is the app coming out? So you could create your questions, and when you send the email, people will be able to answer, and you'll see who answered for the question. So this is the Q&A, which is already available in Outlook. It's not available into Teams Conversation, and the polls are coming out too. So if you know the polls into Microsoft Forms, it's going to use like the same similar thing where instead of adding just a Q&A or task list, polls are coming out also into Outlook and into the chat also. So
yeah, that's super cool. So you touched on this a little bit in terms of the like OneDrive. Is all the loop data components stored in OneDrive, or is there a loop substrate? And actually, it begs the question. I mean, you just showed adding a loop component to Outlook. Is some of it stored now in Exchange because you've embedded it in an email, for example? So
no, the loop component is actually a loop to the file that is stored. It's a link to the file. So when you add, it's just like adding a link. You've probably added links to documents into Outlook, and you see the file icon and everything into Outlook. Like you think the file is stored in Outlook, but it's just a link to the file that is stored in your OneDrive. So the loop component is the exact same thing. So if I would, that email that I just prepared, if I would send it to Serge, and Serge would open it with his desktop application, he would see only the link to the file. He will not see the component opened up where we could edit. So the loop component is just a link that is to a file that is stored in a OneDrive of the person that created the loop component.
Right. So I expect so governance related discussions are all about OneDrive, and maybe we'll see some of those pop in. I guess if you're covering off OneDrive, it'll cover off loop components then, if you're worried about.
Because as we all know, like the OneDrive is attached to the user account. So once the user leaves, his user account gets deleted, and by default, 30 days after his user account is deleted, his OneDrive is deleted. So if the OneDrive is deleted and all my loop components are in my OneDrive, everything that I've shared with my team will disappear. So for now, where I see it and where I tell my my users how to use it, I said, this is a temporary tool. This is a tool to share, to build a quick list and have people editing and adding to that list. And then you can extract this and paste it into a real document.
Right.
So you use it for collaboration, for creation. You don't use it for storage. Just like anything in your OneDrive, which should be temporary or personal content that you will have in there.
Yeah, that's a good tip for our user community for sure. Thank you.
And if we go into the OneDrive here, let me get to my user and into the OneDrive, you see I've got the loop file here. So if I click on that loop file, all it is a page that opens up with my content. So I could open it up here and then add more text and then add a new line and type here and add a person and select the person and so on. I could add directly into the page because my loop component is inside of it. It opens up into a page. So this is basically a portion that we're going to see into the loop app eventually. So it's just a shortcut. When we add to the email, it's just a shortcut or an hyperlink that will bring you to the loop component. But since it's a fluid component, it makes it editable by multiple people at the same time and different tools.
So Serge, this is a good segue for my question. I guess my final question is with some of the other, applications or web apps that Microsoft has come out with, like To Do and Power Automate, they've done it all in the web initially, and then they've implemented a desktop version. Is there going to be a Loop desktop app at some point, or?
Well, the app is not, I think it's going to be a web page, but I'm not sure. Since I don't have access to the preview, is it going to be a desktop app, or is there going to be a web page that is going to be called the Loop app? This is to be told or to be seen eventually. There might be, because I could see on a mobile, like maybe you will need to install an app. So the Loop app on your mobile would make sense, I would think.
Yeah, that sounds good. And then the preview, is that like, can anybody sign up for that? Is it like a public preview or is it a private preview?
I think it's a private preview for now, but I'm not sure. So you better check on the web for this one. So I'm really not sure of what's going on. So if you want to have a preview, I think it's a public, because you can go, anyone could go to http://loop.microsoft.com and get access. So I will show you, if we have a few more seconds. I've got a short video where you can see the Loop app in action, actually. So you can see that they're creating inside of a page, they're creating content and adding all the information. They can create new links inside of the Loop app. So you could have like workspaces and like kind of sections inside of a OneNote notebook. You could add pages, and inside of the pages, you'll be able to add content and add more information. And this is the link on the top, loop.microsoft.com, where you can go and sign in for the preview if you want to preview the app.
Fantastic. Well, Serge, great information. Thank you so much, and thanks for being a good fellow Canadian and wearing your jersey.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I was
right.
Happy to be here.
Well, thanks for looping us in.
Next time I'll bring some Loop drinks.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Serge. Talk to you later.
Bye.